And we are live. Welcome to the Rome Show. I got a special guest, Jeremy. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well. How you doing? Of
Doing good. I appreciate you for coming on the podcast.
course, my pleasure. My pleasure. Looking forward to the conversation.
Right. You're an NBC news reporter, correct?
Yeah. I currently work at NBC Connecticut. Been there. This September will be 3 years at the station, and I've personally been doing news for 10 years now. So been here a while by news standards.
News legend. 10 years is a long time.
10 well, there have been people have done this way longer, like our anchors and everything like that, but 10 years, yeah, you know a thing or two when you've been doing this for 10 years.
So, um, are you from Connecticut?
No, so I am originally from Southern California, specifically in a place not too far from LA. That's where I was born, raised, and grew up. So I'm a Southern California guy. I honestly did not live in Connecticut until I got this job, and literally the only reason why I moved to Connecticut was because I got a job here at NBC Connecticut almost 3 years ago.
Nice. So you've been doing it for 10 years, and you started out where you were at, and then you moved out here to get the job for NBC. Um, Through that time, was it a long time that you got the job out here, or was it fast?
So, um, if you mean the process to get this particular job, it did take a little bit of time. So before coming here, I worked in Vegas for 3 years as a reporter over there at another news station. And towards the end of my contract, I was looking for new opportunities. Um, and that process actually took a few months. I actually directly applied to NBC. I had for this particular job, no one like recommended I apply here or anything like that. I was kind of doing my own research, and then I applied to NBC, actually a few NBC stations, and NBC Connecticut called me back, and then from there we just kept in conversation, and that's the reason why you're seeing me here today.
Nice. So doing different like news channels and getting different experiences, what's like one thing you feel like you learned about the news game?
Well, I'll tell you this. Doing this for 10 years, when I got my start back in June of 2015, I worked at a really, really small news station up in a little town called Eureka, California. It's one of the smallest media markets in the country, like market 195 or 197, whatever it is now. It's pretty small. The viewer base is only around, I would estimate, 50,000 some odd people. So it's not a lot of people compared to, say, like Connecticut, for example. And the one thing I've learned, throughout this whole process, and this is despite having gone to journalism school and everything like that, is just the ability to think on your feet. Because during that time, I was what we would call an MMJ, and so I would a multimedia journalist. So I would be out there writing, shooting, editing, and also showing up on camera giving you the news of the day, the news reports, and everything like that. So you had to do everything by yourself as essentially a one man band. And when that happens, things can go wrong sometimes. Murphy's law kind of applies, and so you just have to be prepared to pivot or prepared for if your equipment fails for whatever reason. You're already doing so many things at the same time. Eventually something is bound to go wrong. It's just a matter of how you bounce back.
Right. And I know you have like lots of experience and you started off doing everything on your own and now you have like a camera guy, right?
Yeah, so here at NBC Connecticut, I'm one of the reporters that has the luxury, as I like to call it, of working with a photographer. every single day. That actually was a major reason why I decided to come to NBC Connecticut as opposed to looking at some other offers I had coming out of Las Vegas. But I will say it is a completely different workflow, but in a very good way, at least for me personally, because I'm focusing less on the camera work, and I'm more focusing on the writing, the storytelling aspect, and then working with someone else to put that make that vision a reality. And I'm a firm believer in two heads are better than one.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So congratulations on that, because that's a big thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
If
huge thing, because it just takes one element, one thing I have to think about out of mind, and I can really focus on, doing good work in other ways. And one thing I've realized is that, when you're a one man band, it's very difficult to, have conversations when people, when you're finished your interviews, you finish getting your B-roll, you're kind of in a time crunch and everything like that. When I worked in Vegas, it was very difficult to just have conversations with people after I'm done interviewing them and everything because I have to meet deadline. I have to, get back in the car and start putting together the story, figuring out what video I have and everything. But with a photographer, I don't have to worry about that. While they're getting B-roll and everything, I'm having a conversation with the person we just interviewed, getting a little bit more background. That could probably, perhaps help with telling whatever story we're working on that day.
right, once again, congratulations.
Yeah.
And then, what was the moment when you truly felt like I'm built for this? This is for me.
That's a good question. I mean, I would say probably in my second market. When at the time when I worked in Palm Springs, California, which is like a kind of a retirement community ish, about 120 miles east of LA. It was during that time when I worked as a morning reporter that I felt like, hey, I feel like I kind of belong a little bit because I'm given, all these resources to do the best job possible. At the time, I was able to at least work with a photographer during the morning show to go live and really hone in on that experience because one of the critical elements of this job is how you perform in live situations, especially breaking news situations. So it's always something you have to develop as a skill in order for you to continue to be successful in this industry.
Right, and speaking like a breaking news situation,
Mhm.
what's like a couple of things you tell yourself before you go on the camera?
So in a breaking news situation, first and foremost, the most important thing for me is what information do we have? Without any sort of information, it'll be a little bit tough for me to, go on air and talk about what's going on. If I have a little bit of information and I know what information we have confirmed, where we can go out on air, what information we don't have confirmed, this is all word of mouth, we have to verify and everything like that, that gives me kind of a foundation to know, okay, this is what we can say on air. This is what we still have to figure out, and kind of have things go from there. Now, one thing that, especially with breaking news situations where you barely have a lot of information, but oh, this is a place where there's a ton of police here. We've seen a ton of police running around. What's going on here? You could still do a live shot where you're looking at your surroundings. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? Maybe if the story applies, what are you smelling? If there's some kind of chemical leak or something like that. But you kind of use your senses and you observe your surroundings so that you can bring the viewer in and really give them the setting of where you're at right now with this breaking news situation, so that they have a better understanding of what's going on in their community. Because most likely they're going to want to know, "Hey, what's going on there? Like, why is there so much police? Like, what's going on?" And even if we don't have any verified information, we can at least tell them we are here and we're working on getting that information so that we can keep you informed.
Right. Nice one. And do you still get nervous or it's like a natural now?
Definitely less so than I when I first started in the industry. Actually, my first live shot, believe it or not, was actually not professionally, but it was actually in college. So I went to the I went to the University of Southern California Trojans, fight on. The more known for its good football teams and everything. Maybe not so much right now. They're struggling a little bit, but over there they had a great journalism school where I had the opportunity to work at kind of like the state of the art news station and state of the art equipment at the time. And everything because someone just gave a massive donation, so I was very fortunate to have the privilege of, having access to all of that. And we were doing live shots, pretend live shots for our class assignments and everything. And oh boy, I was a friggin' nervous wreck. Like I was forgetting words. I was like, I don't know what's going on. What am I supposed to say? And just kind of lock up in a way. It's one thing, talking to you, kind of freewheeling and everything, but it's another thing when there's a camera in front of you and you have to, report on the facts and know all this information and have it verified and give it to the viewer so that they can understand it. And that's a skill that, develops over time. Even my first live shot professionally in Eureka, I was still kind of a little bit nervous. I had to go live by myself. Had to set up the camera myself. So that was an added level of stress to try to get on air. But over time, I think it was really when I went to Palm Springs, where I was just doing live shot after live shot after live shot, where that consistency really, really, really helped out. And through that experience, what went right, what went wrong, what can I improve on, and everything like that, that allowed me to really develop the skills I needed to be successful for a live shot. And now today, if they send me out to breaking news, I barely know anything like that, but they need me to go live to talk about whatever is happening. I can do it and probably give you like a 30-second to a minute live report just based on what I'm seeing right now and giving you the layout of the area.
Right. It comes like a natural, easy now.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost second nature now, but that again, that comes with experience. And if you look at live shots of reporters in their first markets, even the really good ones, they're gonna watch back and be like, "Oh man, this is a little rough, a little rough at the edges," because this is not something you've done before at that time as a professional.
Right. And you've been doing this for 10 years. You got a lot of experience. What's one major setback or failure in your career that happened to you that you learned from?
So the one that comes to mind came in my first market. I actually have a picture somewhere. I don't quite remember where it was, but I had that picture immortalized. But um, I was working on a story about dam removals at this river in that area. It was kind of a big deal and everything like that. And we knew that the governor of California at the time, Jerry Brown, was going to be speaking. And my news director told me we need to get Jerry Brown to talk to us about what's going on and everything. And that was one of my main focuses and a key part of my story was to get him to talk. So I got all my interviews and everything. Yeah, he spoke on the podium, but we wanted to get a one-on-one interview with him. So he actually went with security, went out on the lake and everything like that. So he kind of did his thing, surveyed the lake, dam removal and whatnot. And then we were waiting, waiting, waiting. My deadline is coming up, and at the time, I don't have like a laptop. I don't have anything to send stuff remotely back to the station. So I literally had to drive an hour and a half back to get back to the station and start putting things together. But they still wanted me to get the governor and everything. And I'm talking with this highway patrol officer because they provide security for the governor. And I'm chatting with him. It's like, hey, when Jerry's gonna come, when Governor Brown's gonna come, and everything. It's like, I don't know, maybe another half an hour or so. I'm like, all right, and so I'm like thinking about how I'm gonna have to make this work and everything like that. And then lo and behold, we see a boat come in, and there's Jerry Brown, with his walking stick and everything. And his press person comes up to me because I was the only one left there. All the other news stations kind of left already, but they wanted me to get him, and we secured that interview. So it was great. It's gonna be exclusive and everything. We're gonna get Governor Jerry Brown talk about these dam removals and everything. And the press part guy was like, 3 questions. You only get 3 questions. I'm all right. I'm gonna make it count. So ask him those questions and everything, and record the interview. We got it all and whatnot. And then as soon as I finished the interview, I put everything away and rushed back to the station in order to put the story together. So at that time, by the time I got by the station, I only had maybe an hour and a half before air to put everything together. So there was a lot of stress, especially for someone who's at that time maybe been doing it for about, I don't know, like 3-4 months professionally. So
Oh yeah,
it was a lot of pressure.
that's a lot of
And
pressure.
yeah, a lot of pressure, whole lot of pressure. And when I got back to the editing bay, I logged all the interviews. Then I got to Governor Jerry Brown's interview, and I start logging his sound. I realized, oh shoot, I didn't turn on the receiver of my stick mic. I could
Oh
hear him.
man,
I was like, I could hear him, but it's not like the sound I necessarily wanted in terms of the sound quality. It was I was getting it all from the camera mic rather than the stick mic. And I realized, oh shoot, I did not turn on my stick mic. I guess that whole time it didn't turn on and everything like that. And oh boy, my news director at the time just blew a gasket and everything like that. Yeah, let's put it this way: she was not happy. Like that. We still made the story work and everything like that because again, you got to think on your feet, and we had sound we could still use, but man, that was a big lesson over there where I was like, hey, I gotta make sure all my stuff's working. I gotta make sure my stick mic actually works. But from then on, something like that hasn't really happened to that magnitude.
right. And there's not like a good quality interview with a good audio.
Yeah, in this business, audio is key. You can have the most amazing video whatsoever, the most amazing interview, but if you cannot hear them that well or the audio quality is garbage, that's pretty much just gonna ruin your entire story because people watch with their eyes, obviously, but they also listen as well. And if they're hearing something off, that's not going to sit well with the viewers.
Right. And from your day to days, what's like 1 or 2 things that you do to keep you on track?
So one of the things I do to kind of prepare myself is I actually get into work a little bit early. That way I can get my bearings. I can see what's going on during the day. That way I know what stories could be done, what are other possible stories. I might be making some phone calls to people like, hey, I know you and I were talking about this story. Are you free today to, maybe talk about it and whatnot? That's one thing I like to do is just get ready, get my bearings, and that way I'm able to, pitch stories, and then we can kind of move things along from there. And the second thing I like to do is, time management. Time management is key. Even though I have the luxury of a photographer, working with me every day, time management is key. And without that, you're never ever going to be able to, just simply put, your story on air because to quote my journalism teacher at USC, she said, especially when you start out in this business, it's all about making air, not art. It's not going to be necessarily the most beautiful thing in the world that you put out there in terms of, how the story looks and everything. But as long as, the image, the video is clear, it's color balanced, it's sharp, it's not blurry, you're telling exactly what the story is, the audio quality is fine, that right there is a win, especially when you start out. That's a win. And as long as you're able to inform the people and the viewers understand what you're saying, that's great right over there. From there, once you get comfortable, then you can start making art out of it. But my first priority is making sure we have enough time management to where we can get everything we need for the story and be able to put it on air in time.
Nice. And what do you want your impact or legacy to be, not in just your career, but in life?
Wow. Ooh, legacy, man. That's definitely not something I've been thinking about, and everything since I've only been doing this for 10 years. There've been people who've been doing this way longer than I've been alive. I can tell you that for a fact. And I'm only in my 30s. So one thing I will say is, I what I hope to do is be able to, especially through my reporting or through my work, I'm able to either allow viewers to be better informed about their what's going on in their local community, or at least have some sort of positive impact, whether it's directly or indirectly in some way, shape, or form through the work I do. Because when it comes to this job, especially in local news, you have a front row seat in terms of what's going on in the community, what news is happening, whatever is popping off during that time. You have a front row seat, and essentially, as I like to think, you're putting together the first draft of what's happening, especially if it's like a historical moment, for better or for worse. And you have to make sure that you're informing people accurately, accurately, informatively, but also, especially if it involves, tragedy. You have to do it in a way that's empathetic as well. You're not there just to simply get, the crying mom just to get the crying mom. You're there to actually show compassion for her, and everything like that. And something I've realized through my career is people cope with grief in very, very different ways. There's the usual, which I'm sure many of you viewers would understand. People don't want anything to do with the news at the time. They're distraught and everything like that, and that's completely understandable. And at least for me personally, I'm not going to push them and everything after I speak with them and whatnot. But other people just want to talk. They just want to talk. They want to get things off their chest, and they feel that's the best way for them to move forward. And that's something I've definitely realized over the years, is that everyone reacts to grief, tragedy differently, and you just have to make those adjustments, but still remaining empathetic and compassionate to the people you're talking to.
Right. Good one. That's a good one. And I got one more before we go. I really appreciate you for coming on.
Of course, of course.
If someone's watching or listening who feels stuck, uncertain, or afraid to start, what message would you give them to start their journey?
One thing in terms of the advice I've got, I would say, especially in this industry, which is not easy starting out, is that everything is temporal. Everything has a set time frame. In this industry, you have contracts, you have a set number of years you're going to be working for whatever news station you have. Now, granted, you can renew and keep staying at the same station if that's what you want to do. But say, for instance, like you're working, you're struggling, but you feel like you're making some sort of progress, but obviously you want to move on to better opportunities. you have that opportunity. There is an end date for that, because your contract's going to be up, and this could possibly apply to other things in life. You have, obviously you have a start date, but there is also possibly an end date for whatever you're working on, especially if that's something that you don't feel as passionate about, or you feel like you could be doing something better. There is an end date. It's all a matter of where you're going to go from there to find your real passion, and move on into the next stage of your life. In my 10 years, I definitely felt that moving from station to station, and to get to where I am today in Connecticut. And all of it was basically, just thinking about, okay, it is all temporal. There's a start date, but there's also an end date. And, during that time, I can perhaps find my next opportunity if for whatever reason, this is not working out for whatever reason, or some great opportunity could fall in your lap and you're like, hey, you know what? Let's take advantage of it.
Well, good advice. Very good advice. Once again, I definitely appreciate it, Jeremy.
Of course, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Right, and maybe we could do a part 2 soon.
Hopefully, definitely. I'll be up for it. Definitely.
All right, have a good day.
You too. Take care. Bye.
All right, peace.
Peace.